Working hard for something we don't care about is called stress. Working hard for something we love is called passion. What's the difference between, doing something you love and you work late hours and you sacrifice your relationships and you sacrifice your family, but you look at it and say, it was hard, but it was worth it, versus losing all those things and all you do is get a Lamborghini at the end. It's like, was it worth it? I'm like, not so sure I'd do that again, And so I think that's what purpose and cause provide us, is they give us a reason for the sacrifice. That's what love gives us. It gives us the reason for the sacrifice. That's what children do. They give us the reason for the sacrifice. Your life will profoundly change when you have a child. Is it worth it? Yes. Is it easy? No. Every person I've ever talked to who has children say it's the most difficult thing they've ever done. And if you ask them if it's worth it, they all say yes. That doesn't go together.
I work with the Navy. I've worked with the Navy SEALs. And I asked them, how do you pick the guys that go on SEAL Team 6? Right? Because they're the best of the best, the best, the best. And they drew a graph for me. And on one side, they wrote the word performance, and on the other side, they wrote the word trust. The way they define the terms is performance on the battlefield and performance off the battlefield. So this is your skills. This is, did you make your quarterly earnings, however you want to translate it, right? Performance, it's traditional. This is, how are you off the battlefield? What kind of person are you? The way they put it is, I may trust you with my life, but do I trust you with my money and my wife? They're SEALs. This is what they told me. Nobody wants this person, the low performer of low trust, of course. Of course, everybody wants this person, the high performer of high trust. Of course. What they learned is that this person, the high performer of low trust, is a toxic leader and a toxic team member. And they would rather have a medium performer of high trust, sometimes even a low performer of high trust, it's a relative scale, over this person. This is the highest performing organization on the planet, and this person is more important than this person. And the problem in business is we have lopsided metrics. We have 1,000,001 metrics to measure someone's performance and negligible to no metrics to measure someone's trustworthiness. And so what we end up doing is promoting or bonusing toxicity in our businesses, which is bad for the long game because it eventually destroys the whole organization. The irony is it's unbelievably easy to find these people. Go to any team and say, who's the asshole? And they will all point to the same person. Equally, if you go to any team and say, who do you trust more than anybody else? Who's always got your back? And when the chips are down, they will be there with you. They will also all point to the same person. It's the best gifted natural leader who's creating an environment for everybody else to succeed, and they may not be your most individual highest performer. But that person, you better keep them on your team.
The human brain cannot comprehend the negative. It is incapable. Yes, it's true. I'll give you an example. Okay? No, I'll give you an example. You don't have to believe me. I'll prove it. Okay? The human brain cannot comprehend the negative. You ready? Don't think of an elephant. Oh. Hell no. You can't tell the human brain not to do something, right? And so what happens is we very often reinforce things when we put things in the negative, right? I can't get apart, right? Or I can't do this, versus I'm going to keep doing this. Right? And it's such a huge thing to convert things into the affirmative. You're supposed to do it with children as well. We're supposed to say, instead of saying to children, don't eat on the couch, we're supposed to say, eat at the table. Right? We tell people what we want them to do, not what we don't want to do. Pilots know this, right? It is well known in the pilot community that when you tell a pilot, don't hit the obstacle, they'll hit the obstacle. Because what they're doing is focusing on the obstacle. Skiers know this. If you ever seen skiers go through trees, do you know how they do that? It's very easy. It's actually surprisingly easy. If you go through trees on skis and you go, don't hit a tree, don't hit a tree, don't hit a tree, guess what you're watching? You're only looking at trees. All you're doing is seeing trees. You don't understand how anyone can ski with all these trees, right? As opposed to follow the snow, follow the path, follow the path. The only thing you see is the path. Skiers know this. If you say don't hit a tree, you'll hit a tree. You won't be able to find a path because all you see is millions of trees. If you say only follow the path, you actually don't see any trees. There's actually very sparse trees. There's plenty of path, there's plenty of snow. It's the same thing for you. If you focus on the obstacles, all you will see is obstacles. If you focus on the path through the trees, all you will see is path through the trees. It's your choice how you choose to perceive your own career. It's literally perspective. The reality is, I'm an idiot. And I'm not being flip about it. I don't understand very complicated things. And so I ask a lot of questions so that the person who's telling me something complicated, who's talking in terms as if I understand them,
Sure.
finance or neuroscience, I don't know what you're talking about.
Right.
And I ask enough questions just so that I understand it. So is what you're saying this? No, that's not what I'm saying. Well, what are you? So I'll give you a perfect example. So a long time ago, I had a client. They were a public company, and they brought me on to do some work for them. But they invited me to sit in on a meeting from the consultant that they had hired. And so all the C-level executives and me, and this consultant was giving a presentation about something, and all the C-level executives were sitting there nodding and taking notes on the PowerPoint that they had printed up in front of them, and I had it as well, and I didn't understand a frickin' word of it.
Yeah.
Right? I was like looking around, like,
Yeah.
and so I'd raise my hand and say, I'm really, really sorry. I know I'm the only person in this room without an MBA, but this doesn't make sense. Like, you say A plus B equals C, but based on your logic, A plus B equals D. Can you just say it again, please? I'm really sorry to slow the meeting down, everybody. And you could see the consultant getting frustrated with me and would try and explain it again. I said, I'm so sorry. And one by one, all the C-level executives said, yeah, I don't understand it either. Now, if the idiot hadn't spoken up and said, I don't understand, they all would have nodded their heads for fear of looking stupid because they didn't understand.
Yeah.
And they would have paid a lot of money for a document they didn't understand, and they would never have used it and would have sat on a shelf. And it's because I'm okay being the idiot. That's why I'm not being flip. I'm okay everybody in the room going, because I have to ask questions until I understand it. But the reality is once I can get to the point where I understand it, I can get it so simple that I understand it, and I can say it in simple terms. That means other people understand it too.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of value being the idiot. Look, human beings, we can't help ourselves but compare ourselves to others. And comparison is the deadliest thing we can do to ourselves, because we will always come up short. And all it does is exaggerate all of our insecurities. It's okay to enjoy other people's success, but you let them live their lives and you live your life. Oh, and by the way, they're curating their social media. That's not really their life. And so you're making decisions based on how you feel, based on their curated things. I know, I've talked to so many millennials. I know somebody who's out of work, really depressed, and yet she goes and does all these things so she has the appearance of this amazing, successful life. And so now she may be making those decisions based on what her friends, who knows what sort of weird, twisted, exaggerated, circle of depression this is forming. So go back to the rules of the infinite game. Your friends are there to admire. Your friends are there to say, God, I'm so happy for them. What are they doing that I can learn from? I'll give you an example. So we can all fall into this trap. So, in my business, authors and speakers and folks like us, we're all comparing ourselves to each other, and sometimes it can get silly and competitive. And there was, sometimes I go on Amazon and I check the rankings of my books to see that I still have a job. And now and then there was this one author who I hated for no reason. He's very smart. His work's incredibly good. He's incredibly well respected. I respect him, but I hate him. And I would check the rankings of his books. And when I was ahead, I'd be like, yes. And when he was ahead, I was like, right? It would drive me crazy. And I had this weird abstract competition. Same thing, right? Social media happened to be Amazon rankings.
Right.
And I would check in all the time. I'd always check in, mine, his, nobody else, just mine and his. Anyway, we were, I was at an event and we were interviewed together on the same stage. and the interviewer decided to let us introduce each other.
So I went